Okay, hi guys. Happy you're here, and this is fourth episode of my blues podcast. And today's guest, Khalif Wailin Walter. And actually, we just aired the first episode a couple of days ago, and Khalif was watching it. So
That was fun. It was a
yeah, it
lot of
was
fun.
fun. So you had a peek on what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, my like bold statement or the story of this is, it's like I want you to imagine at some point, so we're in a like in a backstage before the show, or in a bus going to next gig, because through the years, playing with all you guys and doing, like, one of the most times was between the gigs, after the gig, or when we're driving from one gig to another, and a lot of stories comes up when you
Yeah.
guys, or actually we and Khalif, we were working on another project for blues school and learning blues classics, and we did a record session when a couple of weeks ago.
That was a blast.
That
That
was a
was so
blast.
much fun. That
And
was so much fun.
also, yeah, I heard there was I didn't notice on the record session, but then when I looked to go through the video files while I was working on one room, I saw the two stories you were telling to the guys in the other room, right? About, like, meeting Albert Collins and so on.
Yeah.
So during the session, if something comes or pops up in your head, you're like very welcome to share it.
Sure. Cool.
And yeah. And let's start with this. So, let's tell us, how is your everyday blues life going on? What you doing?
It- this is really crazy. The last 2 years, well, I mean, we all know coronavirus, the last 2 years has been crap for musicians. For me, in all honesty, there have been long periods of time where I put my guitar down, and to be honest, I haven't missed it. The just I've been spending a lot more time being daddy at home. I've got two absolutely wonderful kids, and being full time dad is more than enough for anybody out there that's got kids. You know what it's
I
like.
know what you mean, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a teacher, famous jazz guitarist from Chicago. His name is Bobby Broom. And I remember when I was in university studying, Bobby was like, "Man, I told him, man, it's hard to find time to practice with, because I was working and going through university, working and also playing gigs, and going to school full time, and I was playing gigs because I needed the money. That was also a job for me, and I was telling Bobby, man, it's hard to find time to, sit down and practice." And Bobby just kind of shook his head and looked off in the distance and said, "Man, don't have kids."
Well, I can't agree with that, man. I can relate to
He
that.
said, if you think you can't practice now, don't have kids.
Yeah. I know. Also, you just graduated another thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That super proud of that. One of the things I'm very, very proud of myself for doing is I got myself into audio engineering school, and we had a lot of fun in the studio there too. That was another thing, just to be in another studio. I decided while I was sitting around for the last since what 2020 February 2020, yeah,
Yeah.
that
Something like that.
I wanted to up my skills. And if you take a look at my website, one of the things I don't talk about it much in the blues context because it's a different part of me, but I have a singer songwriter, a solo singer songwriter acoustic project under the name K Walters. And one of the things I do with that solo acoustic project, it literally really is solo. I do everything. I do all the vocals and all the instruments, and record everything myself, mix and master everything by myself. And I just wanted to up my skill level and add some new tools to my toolbox. And so, yeah, I went to SAE and doing acoustic physics in German is not an easy feat, might I add. But I got through it, and now, yeah, I'm basically a qualified studio engineer, so I'm looking forward to putting those talents to other use as well. You know.
Great. So we got something to share, right?
Yeah.
uh,
For those of you that don't know, Marcus is also a very accomplished studio guitarist, studio engineer. And if you need a studio plug, a shameless plug for you, if you're looking for somebody in Europe that you need a blues producer or blues engineer, we got you covered.
Yeah, thanks. We can do
Call.
we can do your guitars and we can do your production and
Yeah.
everything. Okay, and now actually let's get to the next section that I love really much in my postcard. I called it quotes and shit.
Okay.
If you remember it from the
Okay,
last time.
yeah. I wish there was some way I could practice for this beforehand, but
No, but
I'm on the spot. Okay, we'll
that's
see. I'm on the spot, and we'll just see.
yeah, but that's the best thing. This is for your. Let's see if you remember, because the first one, first quote. So for those who doesn't know, like what is gonna happen now. Like I have some quotes there. I'm gonna tell the quote. I'm gonna say the quote, and Khalif has to see if he knows or if he can guess who said it and what's his input on this and how you can relate to it. So the first is every bad situation is a blues song waiting to happen.
Oh man. Good. Good question. Um, Man, I could think of 1,000 different people that could have said that.
Right. I'll give you a hint. That's not so much as a blues musician, but it's from somebody that actually we played a cover on a festival in
Oh,
summer. We played with you a cover in festival.
oh man, that had to be Amy Winehouse.
Exactly, man.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
That's why I chose this because actually
Cool. Yeah. Oh man, I miss her. I miss Amy. I really miss her. That was a talent that we got robbed. All of us. That's a talent that went way too quickly. Yeah. Yeah. That's the truth though. Yeah. Every situation is a blues.
yeah. So what?
Every next girlfriend is a blues story waiting to be written.
So what's your input to this? You agree with it, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, and I'll get you the next one then. I'm trying to get people to see that we are our brother keepers. Red, white, black, brown, or yellow, rich or poor. We all have the blues.
Ooh. Um. Okay. Yes. I'm guessing, but I want to guess Muddy Waters.
Yeah, something close, but nothing.
Close? No.
Well, it's
Okay.
actually BB King.
Ah. Okay. All right. Yeah. BB. I don't know. If I've told you guys that story. I met him. That's how I actually came to blues. Was I got a once in a lifetime blues guitar lesson with BB, and by far one of the most patient and loving people on the planet. Really very humble for who he was. I mean, he really could. Obviously, nobody has the right to be arrogant, but if anybody in this business could have been, it was him. And he was so willing to sit down and share information and his time. And as he got older, I think he really appreciated his place in history and was very willing to give his time to share his knowledge with it. Just another amazing gift to the world of music, not just blues music, but BB was, I think BB transcended blues music in the way that he showed that African American based music is something that could be spoken and shared all over the world. You know, that was he had a very special place, not just as an ambassador, but as a somebody that propagated our history. You know, as African Americans, our history wasn't written down, and he took that around the world. That was a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, you can you share. I remember now. Last time we were in Latvia, you shared us this story, but you can share it with the rest of
Yeah.
the students now. How did you get it lesson? How was it?
It was purely when I was young, I was hard headed. I was a Van Halen fan. Eddie Van Halen. That's all I wanted to hear. AC/DC. I still am biggest AC/DC fan on the planet. And BB King played at Delaware State University, and I got tickets. And I remember going to the concert, and I was just kind of like, yeah, 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 one note trick, And I heard him, and I was just floored. I sat there the entire time, my jaw on the floor, just how does this guy do this? And when he got finished, a friend of mine who was a photographer for a publication, he said, "Do you want to go backstage?" And I said, "Yeah." And he handed me a bunch of camera bags and said, "Just stay close to me, follow me, don't answer any questions, just run in behind me." And he ran in, flashed a badge, said, "I'm with the press, and this is my assistant," and we got in. And we went in the back, and BB was sitting there, and I don't know if anybody knows this, but there's no Lucille. Lucille, at that time, there was no one Lucille. Gibson Guitars made a brand of guitar called Lucille. I'm not sure where the original Lucille is or what happened to it, but at that time there were 5 Lucille's sitting there backstage, and he had a chair sitting next to him, and he was talking to a bunch of press people, and he said something about, "Oh, well, does anybody play guitar?" And he was talking a little bit about his technique. And my friend sort of pushed me up to the front, and I said, "Well, I play guitar." And he looked at me and said, "Oh, wow, young black man that wants, you're interested in blues, have a seat." And then he just started showing me stuff. And I was, "Well, how do you do that vibrato thing?" And he's, "Oh, yeah." And he just started showing me different things. And I sat there with him for about 25 minutes. And he just kept showing me one thing after another. He's really, really kind. And then later, when I moved, at that time I didn't live in Chicago, I was traveling with a rock band. And later, when I moved back to Chicago, I ended up playing in his daughter's band, Shirley King. And I think the first time I met him again must have been about maybe 10 years after that first meeting. That first meeting was I think it was 1985 or so. And the second time I met him, I want to say it was 1995, 1996, right around there. And I sat down with him, and I was like, "I know you're absolutely never going to remember this." And I reminded him of the gig and that I had met him before. And he was just incredibly kind to take his time. And again, we played a little bit and talked. And I met him, I think, maybe 4 or 5 times more after that. It was just an amazing, really, he's just a great guy. He's really amazing person. And just about me personally, one thing I do, I studied African American history alongside having studied jazz music. And one thing I love to do is I love to teach younger people about African American history. And our music, for me, our music is the vehicle of that history. We didn't have, our history was not written down. And a lot of the reason why I have to do that is I have to be honest about it, is because B.B. King, I looked at him and I was like, if this person who thousands and thousands of people would love to have 5 minutes to sit down with, if he was kind enough to take the time to sit down with me and share some knowledge and information with me, given all the people that I've had the opportunity to meet, who am I to keep that all to myself? I feel like I have a responsibility to the African American community to continue to share that music, to continue to share our history as much as I possibly can, because I've been given the opportunity from a lot of wonderful, wonderful people to get that same history myself. So, BB, wherever you are, your legacy lives on.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's cool, actually. That's experience of a lifetime, right? And
Absolutely
about
amazing.
this keep. That's, I think this what you tell at the end is like about what keep the blues alive means, right? That's
Yeah, yeah,
like.
that's what it is to me. So
I
definitely.
just read actually that I saw there was some quote also from that Muddy Waters before he died told Buddy Guy, like, man, don't let the blues die,
Yeah,
keep it going, right? And
believe it.
so
Yeah.
cool. Okay, let's do one more.
Okay.
Let's do one more. And so this would be, if you don't know the blues, there's no point in picking up the guitar and playing rock and roll or any other form of popular music.
Oh, that. I'm gonna guess that's got to be Chuck Berry.
Almost, it's Keith Richards.
Keith Richards. Okay. Cool. Yeah, the Stones. Have to say, yeah, the Stones influenced me as well too. Is I grew up. I grew up listening, more to the after effects of blues, shall we say, than the actual original blues. I'm what, Chicago fourth generation, I guess, third generation. And so for me, I grew up listening to the Hendrixes and to the Stones and even the Beatles, and then and the Claptons, yeah, and having to go back and find the originals. When I even started playing, I don't I don't remember when Muddy passed, but I never actually even had the chance to see him. I think you have to be 21 to get in the clubs in
Yeah.
America, and by the time I even got started listening to blues, it was too late. I didn't have a chance to see him. So
Yeah. By the way, I think not a lot of people know that Rolling Stones. It's actually the song. No, I mean the band name is from a Muddy song, Rolling
Muddy song,
Stone.
yeah.
So yeah, you can look for their roots. If you like Stones or Led Zeppelin, definitely go back to Muddy
Yeah,
Waters and Willie
yes.
Dixon.
Yeah, definitely.
All
Yep.
right, and okay, and the last quote, I chose this one because I saw this one, and okay, them pains when the blues pains grab you, you'll sing the blues right.
Ooh.
And why I chose this, it's the guy who said it. We did his song in that studio session.
Oh, did
It's one of
Albert,
those
Albert
guys.
Albert Collins or
The
Albert
other
King?
one.
Albert King?
No, we did Albert Collins, and we did.
What's the other song we did? I can't remember the song we did now.
It was Otis Rush.
Otis Rush. Ah, okay, yeah. That's he's no longer living, but what really probably my favorite. Well, I don't want to say favorite, but I'd have to say he had he had a big influence on my playing. Let's just. I always want to say biggest, and then you mention somebody else. Oh yeah, he had a really big. Oh wait, no, he had a really big influence. I have so many influences. My influences are so many that yeah. But I loved Otis. Otis Rush could bend a guitar string better than anybody. Him and Albert King, those guys were string benders, man. Those guys. What I feel is missing in a lot of modern blues players is that string bending. They have a lot of fingers flying all over the place, but Otis Rush could make that guitar cry. I mean, just wail,
Yeah, yeah, and the song we did, it was "Keep on Loving Me."
Keep
Babe,
on
I
loving me,
guess.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's
yeah.
what we did.
Yeah. I've always wanted to do a fitting cover of that song. So yeah.
Okay, and then okay, moving further, like, do you have some up till 5 or first standards that you comes in mind? Like, let's say if we're gonna play together, there's gonna be some originals, there's gonna be some standards. Which is gonna be your standards that I'm gonna have to learn to play with you?
You mean my songs or
No, I mean
songs?
blues standards. Like
Blues standards?
it's for the young guys, so they can see where to start. Like there's hundreds
Wow.
of standards. So I ask each guy, which is your top 5? Like I mean
Wow.
3, 4, 5, whatever.
Wow. I like that Otis Rush "Keep on Loving Me Baby," but there's other songs by Otis Rush that I think are really "Hold That Train Conductor," really good one. Wow. BB King, "You Upset Me Baby."
Okay.
That drummer kills me. I can't remember who was playing drums on that, but just killer. I every guitar student, I actually tell them it's not one song, but I tell them take the album Albert King, "I Want to Get Funky."
Yeah.
Just take the album home, sit down with a beer, smoke whatever whatever you need. Sit down and just play the album 20 times over and just listen to that. How the interaction between the vocals and the guitar, how even with the horns and Hammond, and some of the songs had horns, Hammond, piano, drums, background vocals, and everything seems to fit like a symphony. That just
What you said album title was?
I want to get funky,
I
Albert
want to
King.
get
I want to
funky.
get
That's not
funky.
Funky
Yeah.
London. What
Yeah,
I'm thinking.
not Funky London. No, Funky London's also a good one, but I want
I
to
want to
get
get funky.
funky.
Yeah, no, I remember. No,
Yeah,
I remember that.
that one for me because yeah, you know my style. I'm not a straight ahead blues player. I love my funk.
Yeah.
And more and more lately, I'm also getting into a lot of R&B. So oh man, that's oh man, I can't. There are so many I can't even think. Like if I had to pick five, um, and I'd say you also another one to sit down with. Again, it's not a single song, but everybody should probably sit down with Freddie King's greatest hits as well.
Yeah.
I personally I love the Stumble, but there's so many. Have you ever loved a woman? There's so many songs on that. Another one that I really could not live without. Howlin' Wolf is another one,
Okay.
and again I can't pick one song. Grab his greatest hits, sit down with they're just there are so many artists out there that really what I always say when I say if you're a young person, I know you said kind of what songs, but the one piece of advice I always give young blues players is don't just start at Stevie Ray Vaughan or Joe Bonamassa. That blues is a language. You have to, like any other language. If you're going to learn French, if you're going to learn if you've never spoken English, to read Shakespeare, one or two books by Shakespeare, and then sit down to try to write a book in English, you'd
Yeah.
really you'd sound like a fool. And
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
same thing. It's the same thing with blues. If you only listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan, or if you only listen to Joe Bonamassa, or if you only listen to Eric Clapton, and then think that you can play in this genre, maybe you'll impress a few people along the way, but blues it's like any other language. You have to learn your nouns and your verbs. You have to
Yeah.
learn the grammar structure.
And
You have to live in the language a little bit before you can write your own story. And
and
that's the advice I would give you.
yeah, like you said, you like Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's okay, but I think we could both agree if you're gonna go asking Stevie Ray Vaughan, he's gonna say, okay, I appreciate how you like my music, but I listen to Albert King and I listen
Right.
to
Yeah.
T-Bone Walker and I listen to
Yeah.
that, right? So go and listen to that, and then you're gonna get out of this
You'll get
your
a
way and your
much better.
sound.
Yeah, and
And
there's a lot of wonderful guitar players. I mean, a lot of great guitar players in Chicago. Mike Wheeler,
yeah,
Toronto Cannon.
yeah,
We've got if you hear all three of us, we have our own styles. We have our own approaches. Giles Corey's another one.
yeah,
We all have our own approaches, but we've all basically listened to the same thing. I think that the difference is that, like I said, we learned our nouns, we learned our verbs, we learned our grammar structure, and then we went to write our story with the
yeah.
language and the way that
And
we understood it. And so,
And that's kind of what I think happened with us in the Latvia Blues, because we played with you, we played with Toronto, I think I played with Mike already. Well, we played together already like 2 or 3 times. Like,
yeah,
okay,
yep.
three, the first one.
First,
barely
we won't talk about that. We'll let that one go.
but
That's another blues story.
yeah, for times when we're older. Okay. But I played with Mike a couple of times, and with Toronto and you, and that's thing also how we learned, because you were sending on those like, okay, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do that, and you all listened to the same music, but still you all got different like originals, things like different originals, and also different standards a little bit.
Yeah,
Like,
different voices. I mean, we all that this is what again, we all have our own voices, and what I love, one of the reasons why I love Amy Winehouse, when you turn on the radio, you go, oh, that's Amy Winehouse. You know, the same thing with BB King. When you turn on the radio, oh, that's BB King. And when you turn on Freddie King, you know that, oh, that's Freddie King. Or Otis Rush, oh, I know that's Otis Rush. They had that individual sound. And I can't exactly say that about a lot of artists now. That's part of it is just, it's just the industry that we're in. It's a money driven. We are in the business of art, not in the art of business. And the problem with that is that record companies, they want to sell, you know, as many records as possible. So if this guy is selling, then you need to sound like him. That's, you know, that's kind of the way the
Yeah.
industry works, and that's a shame from an artistic standpoint, because like I said, you know, you turn on the radio, and it's hard to know one artist from another. And I like that when you turn on the artist, that you hear a timeless voice in Ella Fitzgerald, and you go, oh wow, that's Ella. No, nobody else sounds like her. Or, you know, a BB King, nobody else sounds like him. I
I,
really
I
love
heard
that
this,
individual element.
I heard a story from Buddy Guy one time in one interview where he said like when he started out and he started to get recognition, he said they say, "Whoa man, you got to change your name to King. You got to be King," you know. And
Yeah.
Buddy says like, I already know. I know BB King and Freddie King and Albert King, man. There's a lot of Kings, you know. Maybe I stay with who I am, you
Who I
know.
am.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
stay Buddy Guy. So
That's a
so
good
yeah.
idea. Stay who
And
you are. Yeah.
just a little backup for those top five standards. I just since I've played with you and for the other students, like I can just you know give a hint. If you're gonna play with Khalif, like the songs you can listen or something. The ones we did when we were on the stage, and it was like, okay, what's next? What are we gonna do? Let's do some standard. We play with you Hideaway. I
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
We played Freddie King, Hideaway, that's you can consider. We played, yeah, we did Otis Rush. We did Otis Rush, Keep on Loving Me, Babe. We did Albert Collins, Two More
Yes, we did
Dirty
Albert
Dishes,
Collins. Yeah. Yeah. Too many dirty dishes.
Too
Yeah.
Many Dirty Dishes. And there were songs, so I think, okay, we got enough to cover this
Yeah.
section,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then the next picture right away from here, we walking down the street, we go into a record store. We go to the blues CD section,
Oh wow.
which are five CDs or three CDs or even one CD, what you're going to give to me. Well, you already mentioned Albert King, Get Funky.
I want to
This
get
is,
funky. Yeah.
yeah, this
Yeah.
is my first CD in my drawer. What's
Okay.
next?
Um. Wow.
It doesn't have to be five.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would pick.
Well,
Definitely pick one from Albert Collins, but I don't. I don't know which one. The alligator stuff from Albert Collins, I think, is genius. Just there's a lot of music in there where he tells stories, and that to me is the essence of blues, is that you tell a story with your music, and so I definitely grab anything on alligator from Albert Collins. I like a lot of big band sort of influenced stuff. Jimmy Rushing, maybe. That's another one I'd say. Yeah. What other any other CDs? Let's see. Think of most of my desert island CDs. This is crazy, but most of my desert island CDs are actually jazz. Although, you know what, I could recommend that too. Miles Davis. It's okay. This is not necessarily a blue CD, but Miles Davis kind of blue is my. If I had like the one album that is on my. I'd say the number one album on my top 10 desert island albums is Miles Davis kind of blue. But the one thing that you can take from that album, I always give people that, and if they've never heard jazz, and I want to tell them how jazz and blues music, they're very related. But I tell them, listen to Freddie Freeloader. You know, close your eyes and think about somebody being high walking through the streets of New York. Oh yeah, just breezing and no worries, and you can hear the story develop, and then listen how he plays his trumpet solo, and then listen to the piano. So I think I want to say it's Wynton Kelly. The piano solo. Listen to how the piano solo incorporates elements that the trumpet solo actually used. You could tell that he was sitting there not just playing and waiting for his solo, but he actually listened to what Miles Davis had to say, and then he engaged in that conversation. And that, yeah, Freddie Freelater it's more of a blues form. But that to me is the essence of blues. That is I listen to what you have to say and I interact with that it's a conversation.
Yeah. It's
And
like a
and
real conversation. A lot of times you see people, you see them listening, but they're actually not listening. They're thinking when they got a chance to tell when can I tell my thing? Like when you're gonna stop
yeah,
talking, like right? And they're thinking what I'm gonna say to that, not just listen and then when you got a chance, then interact. See, like because
right.
actually the funny fact, listen. If you rearrange the letters, it spells silent.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interact with the conversation. That's another thing I love about like the Jimmy Rushing stuff. That's a big band. So if everybody is sitting there thinking about what they're going to do next, that can get to be very, very sparse and then very, very crowded.
Yeah.
And so I mean, there's a lot of you really have to interact with the conversation. You have to know your part in the and so yeah, these are albums that I would say I don't have a specific name again. Just grab the greatest hits and sit down and
No, we
listen to
got. I
all
think
30 of them.
we got enough. Yeah. By the way, for Albert Collins, my preference would be one is I really love this live compilation. I think 2091, 93, or 92, 94, something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas it starts with If You Love Me Like You Say, and there's a lot of it's like really great compilation. And there, I don't remember the album's name, but there was one of the old ones. One of the really maybe it was even the first Ice Picking or
Yeah, Ice Pickin' was one of my favorites.
Ice Picking or Frostbite or Cold Snap maybe it was, but they had some instrumentals there, a lot of and
One,
really different shufflings like.
I think Frostbite was the one with the instrumental. I'd have to look it up, but I think
It could
Frostbite
be
was the one.
Frostbite,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And
I like
yeah, in
I
that.
oh,
Go
sorry.
on.
All of his albums on Alligator. What I really liked about it is the songs. There's a lot of songs with stories in them. I mean, Too Many Dirty Dishes. I Ain't Drunk. But what's the one? The one where he shoots his dog. That was one of my favorite ones. Yeah, that's great. Just great tunes, you know.
Yeah, and there's in that live compilation, there's a version of song "Let Her On," but nobody's home, and
Oh
there
yeah,
has a
yeah,
version that it's so slow. They sound like ba ba da, ba do,
yeah.
and
Oh, I
they
love
keep it
that.
for like some fucking 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it's really really long song,
Oh,
and they
Albert
do
could.
it. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, yeah, and you put it on the beginning of song and the end of the song, and it's the same tempo. They haven't rushed it at all.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's another. I love somebody that can really play some slow blues. Albert Collins was just. I mean, he could milk notes for that one note that for hours.
I know. I remember you told me, and I didn't know that he also played in some strange tuning, right?
Yeah, weird. I want to say it was like F sharp minor or something like that. It was a weird tuning, and that's part of the reason why he had the capo one all the time. I think he didn't have a real explanation for it. But the explanation I heard from other people was that there's a lot of country music down there, and that that might have had something to do with it. It's just a lot of guys that played Telecasters in that Texas, Louisiana, sort of the country chicken picking sort of thing, and that was the explanation I got. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know. So,
Okay. Yeah. And okay, moving further. What are you doing when you're not playing blues? I think you
um,
kind of some answered in the beginning of
yeah,
the.
yeah. Mostly I'm daddying. Yeah. I often the last year and a half I've been working on a lot of recording engineering stuff. I also have a project. I don't know how much I can talk about it yet. I've slowly been interviewing friends of mine that are in the current generation of blues players, and I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to
Okay,
say too much more about
cool.
that one right now. And yeah, I I would be lying if I said I spent all my time playing blues, or when I practice that I spend all my time playing blues, because I don't. I mean, if anything, I have been playing at jazz for 20, 30 years, and ironically, I've never gotten better at it, but I have continued to play at it. Yeah, I love playing funk music. I absolutely love funk music. I'm a really big singer songwriter fan. I listen to everything anyway, so I mean, if I hear something I like, um, then I'll try to pick it off. I don't have any particular. I have over 1,000 CDs, and I have actual CDs, not streaming. But right now I'm listening to a lot of R&B music, I guess, classic soul. Getting back to the Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye. I'm doing a lot of. I just listening to a lot of soul music at the moment for
Yeah.
some reason.
We did actually we did one
Yeah,
Marvin Gaye song.
we
What's
did
going
Marvin
on
Gaye
last
tone.
time?
Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Sly and the
another
Family
another
Stone.
another blues standard from Khalif Wailin Walter. I played the blues for you.
Oh
That's what
yeah,
we did. We did
yeah,
it your
yeah,
style, like
yeah,
you said. We
yeah,
did it your
yeah.
sound, your
That
style.
definitely,
But
definitely not. That one is nothing like the original.
well, the harmony stays.
Yeah, yeah. I kept the chords, the rest of it. Yeah, and then I mean, I even threw the horns. I kind of stole something. I borrowed from Cannonball Adderley and Nat Adderley. Yeah, that sort of thing with the horns, and yeah. There's a lot of music going on there.
Yeah, and then I remember you were telling about you was like working as a roadie for Albert Collins for a while or
Oh no,
something
no,
like
no.
that.
I'm sorry. Lonnie Brooks. I
For Lonnie
actually was.
Brooks, yeah,
Yeah, I was
right.
Lonnie. Technically, I started as his roadie, just purely by mistake. I was just in the right place at the right time. The guy that was working there with him was not holding down his job very well, and I just happened to be at a gig where the guy they were he was supposed to go out of town for 3 days or something like that, and I think to Louisville or I can't remember, Chattanooga, Tennessee, something like that. I can't remember. I remember
Yeah.
the gig because the gig was really crazy because there was a plane that had crashed into the side of and the venue. The venue. This is not a joke. There's literally a little small hill, and a small like Cessna had crashed into the side of the hill, and they just left it there. And so we're playing in the parking lot, and you look up, and there's this Cessna just crashed into the side of the hill there, and it's just sitting there, and it's
Oh
really
my
crazy.
God.
Yeah, but I worked with him for 4 years, and at first it was just as his roadie. I really was there just to set up his guitars, make sure they were taken down, and anything he needed. And then I got a little more trust from the record company, and they sort of like, here, make sure he's taken care of when he's out on the road, that he has guitar strings, and If he needs anything, if there's something wrong with the contract, call the Bruce Iglauer from Alligator Records. And then it got to the point where his son also had his own band, and he started missing shows, and I started jumping in on the show too. And that was 4.5 of the absolute best. I call it Lonnie Brooks University. The list of guys that has played in his band is long and distinguished, and to have been part of that experience is unbelievable. Dave Biscuit Miller, who bass player, who's been nominated several times for Blues Awards. His son, Ronnie Baker Brooks, an amazing guitar player and singer and songwriter in his own. Other son, Wayne Baker Brooks. Another drummer, Pat Doody, was also there. Wonderful drummer, and he's gone on to do some other things outside of blues. And yeah, Dion Payton, who actually was the reason why I ended up in Chicago, had played with him before as well. So there's a long list of really wonderful guys that have played with him, and that was just such that was just an incredible learning environment.
Yeah, cool. And the last story I remember that I wanted to share, like I wanted you to share, was you were but I catch it, but I'm interested in it because I catch it from the somewhere from the middle where we were setting up in the studio. But you told me something about the guys. You told the guys something about seeing Albert Collins live and about his amp. The way
Oh
he set
yeah,
his
yeah,
amp,
yeah.
that was something funny.
Yeah,
So
yeah. The very first time I met Albert Collins, actually only got to meet him one time because he died very shortly after. I was working for a record company. Well, not a record company, a distributor. And back when there were real record companies, the distributors were sort of the middlemen. We would buy from RCA and Columbia and Elektra and all those guys, and then we would sell to. For all of you kids out there, there used to be dedicated CD stores where you could go in and actually buy nothing but CDs. They don't exist anymore. Amazon was a real brick store that you would actually go into. And I worked for the distributor, and so anytime anybody came to town, I always got backstage passes. And when I heard Albert Collins was coming to town, it was when he was on the I think it was Provogue Record, I think is the name of the record label. Can't remember. I don't remember the name of the record label. Larry McRae was also, it was his first album was on that record label as well. And I got to go down, and he heard about me from some other people who I was, and he was very, very gracious about. I walked in, and everybody was just getting ready to sit down to dinner, and he's like, "Oh, hey, come on over here, have a seat." Had saved a seat next to me, and we talked, and it was really cool because again, I was studying African American history, or I had finished studying African American history, and I actually had a lot of questions that were relevant to him about that subject itself. And then, of course, we got to talking about music and how music was in its place in African American history. And we ran out of time. The dinner was over, and technically my time was over. But he said, "Oh, well, come on back with me. Hang on, come hang out with me backstage." And when I got backstage, what I was surprised to find, he had a giant Fender Twin, I think a silver face, like a 72 or something like that, sitting on a little, I don't know, road case or whatever. And that thing was maxed out. It was like they just took all the thing and just went to 10 across there was no, that was so loud. I was sitting maybe 2 meters or so, 8 feet away from that amplifier, and that thing was, I don't know if I can say the word effing loud. That thing was loud. It was just cranked. But
okay.
it was really cool to hear. I mean, his guitar tone, there was nothing but a cable. There was nothing. I mean, absolutely. That guitar tone was his guitar tone. That was it. There was nothing between him and that amplifier. Nothing. He didn't even have a tuner. Somebody had to come out and tune his guitar for him, give it back to him. So yeah, he broke a string in the middle of the show, and I remember he was standing there while the guy tuned his guitar, and he's like, "I don't know what to do because this is like This was his first show, I think, with a big major record label, and he's like, I don't even know what to do because I'm not used to having a roadie here. This was just a promotional tour, and so
Yeah.
that was cool. But I mean, that thing was loud.
I can imagine
Absolutely
that.
cranked.
It's loud even on a big stage, if
Yeah,
you crank
yeah.
it up.
That was a big stage. It was I think the auditorium there held 600 people or something like that. And it was a fairly big stage, but that thing, even then, luckily I had earplugs and I was standing in the back.
Okay.
But that thing was cranked.
Okay, moving further, uh, your advice to Blues Mastery March students.
Oh wow. Um, One piece of advice I give all of my students, no matter who, listen, 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 always. If you can ask my kids, one of the things, when I'm doing the dishes, I got music on. When I'm sitting on the toilet, I got music on. When I'm getting ready for bed, I put my headphones in so I don't wake I normally go to bed really late, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm a
Yeah,
night person when I work. When I'm getting dressed for bed and everything, I put some headphones on and I listen to music. I mean, and when I'm on the bus, I listen to music. When I'm in the car, I listen to music. I've constantly got music going, and it doesn't have to just be blues. I mean,
yeah,
another thing I tell my students is, if you don't like something, that's fine. If you don't like it, I'm 100% okay with you not liking some piece of music, but intelligently be able to tell me why you don't like it. There was to say, oh, I don't like that. To me, is not a good. That's not an answer a musician gives. That's a listener answer.
yeah.
A good answer. One of my students, I had a piece of music that I really liked, an artist that I like. I'm not going to name the artist. I really liked it. I gave it to him. He said, not my thing. And I was like, why? And he said, well, because he seems to be very hung up on the rhythm with his singing. His singing seems to be very tied to the rhythm. And for me, that there should be more independence. And I'm okay. Yeah, that's a musical answer then. I like to have a distinct melody that is not so tied to the rhythm. Okay, that's a good musical answer. I don't like this because the chord structure is the same four chords over and over and over, and the music doesn't move any. There's no movement in the music. That's a musical answer. So, that listen,
Listen
listen,
and
listen, listen.
analyze. So,
Yeah, yeah. Listen, analyze. Um, I anything you hear. This is another tip, a pro insider tip. Anything you hear, even if it is not blues, anything you hear, you can use. There's a lot of creative borrowing in our industry. Anything you hear, if you like it, make it your own. Figure out, take it apart. Why do I like this? Oh, what can I do with it? How do I incorporate this into my playing? How do I incorporate these chords into my songwriting? Whatever. If there's anything you hear that you like, take it and use it. Don't sit on it. If it moves you in some way, then obviously it you can use it to move other people. So
okay.
that's yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the next question I have is, what's your thoughts about the future of the blues?
What do I think is going to happen? Do you mean, or Um. Oh, I lost your voice. I can't hear you now. Ah, battery. Another pro tip: change the battery. That actually happened on my very first gig with Lonnie Brooks. The battery died right in the middle of it. He walked out into the crowd. It was also my first time being a roadie. He walked out into the crowd with his wireless and the battery died right in the middle of his show. It was so embarrassing. It never happened again. But
I was thinking, do you also think that word analyze comes from anal?
it depends on who's doing it.
Who's analyzing? But back to the chase, yeah. So where we left off, what are your thoughts about the future of the blues? Are we safe here, or should we be worried, or should we expose more? Like, what's going on
Oh,
with the blues nowadays and where it's going? I mean, so
wow. Um, in all honesty, you know what? It's kind of a double edged sword. My biggest problem with the blues, at the way things stand at the moment, my biggest problem with it is that money plays a gigantic part. As listeners and people that are fans of the music and listeners, they don't know that and they don't see it. But money plays a gigantic part in this industry, and we are in a business. We are in the music business and not in the art business. And what I see happening in at this moment, what I see happening at this moment is that the record companies basically have a death grip on what gets out there in terms of what gets. No, no, we as artists have far more control than we did 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Thanks to distribution services, we have far more control over getting our things out there. However, the record companies have a death grip on what gets seen in terms of publicity. Basically, for the people that aren't in the industry, record companies are like mommy and daddy, and they buy all the advertising space. And the problem is that if people see something advertised, they automatically, it's just human nature. If you see something advertised, you're more likely to buy it just because you've never heard of Khalif Wailin Walter, you know. And so what I see is, as artists, we have far more control over getting our product out without having anybody in between that message. And so there's a lot of really, really good music out there. The bad thing is that people also have more than enough choices, and it falls on the listeners to do a little bit more work to find artists that really are deserving of being heard, and not just going to grab the new CD of the guy that you see on the front cover of Guitar World or whatever. So in one way, I'm hopeful about the future, because I mean my music doesn't fit into any neat little drawer. It's not really funk, it's not really blues, it's not really rock, it's not really jazz. It doesn't fit into any one of it's not really soul. It doesn't fit into any one of those drawers comfortably. It fits into those 5 different drawers. And maybe if you're a fan of jazz, maybe you'll like this. Maybe if you're a fan of blues, you'll like this. Maybe if you're, you know, but I depend on a lot of the fans to come looking for me, because I have a very limited budget for getting my stuff out there. And so, yeah, the pond is becoming much smaller with much bigger fish. And so, I mean, we'll see what happens with it. There are some really, really good young artists out there. Kingfish, a friend of mine, Kingfish is one. There are some, Omar Gordon's another one. There are some very, very talented young people out there that are making very, very good music. But again, without that money backing us up to get our voice out there, we really have to hope that fans will not just go grab the first thing that is on the Billboard charts and come
Yeah.
looking for us. So yeah,
That's why we're here, right?
yeah, exactly.
And the following question would be, what do you think? What should we teach to our students?
What should you teach?
Yeah, I think one thing we should teach our students for
I
sure.
I go back to what I said earlier. Blues is a language. So learn your nouns, learn your verbs, learn your grammar. Read the classics. Not, you know, read there's a lot of good modern literature out there, but read the classics, learn the classics, and be humble. It's hard to say I'm humble. I mean, you know, I am who I am. It's hard to say I'm humble, but I love the fact that no matter where I am, I can always learn something from somebody about this music. I mean, even playing with you guys, your attention to detail when we sit down. One of the things that is a hallmark, I think, of the Latvian blues band is you guys. Your attention to detail is unbelievable. When I say we're gonna play this Otis Rush tune, I get there and you have learned your parts. You've listened to it. You've really learned it, and that is the most. I think the most important thing is to learn the music, learn your verbs, learn your nouns, learn your grammar, Don't just listen to Albert King and Stevie Ray Vaughan and go, I know it all. There's a lot of other guitar players out there. What is the difference between West Coast shuffle and a Texas shuffle? Billy Branch and I have had a long-standing argument about this. Billy's going to hear this and go, that's bullshit, man. It ain't a shovel is a shovel, man. A shovel is a shovel.
And still, he can say that. But well, I've played with Billy too, and actually, when I start to play blues band, the Latin blues band, and even before the Latin blues band, the Bites blues band, the Bites Blues Club, actually the Billy shuffles, because we were playing. I don't know if you remember Oscar, our harp player.
Yeah.
And I was playing with him, and he did a lot of Billy's stuff, and I learned all those songs from the Blue Sounds of Blues, and he has his own way of kind of Chicago West
I
shuffle,
know.
but it's nothing like Muddy Waters, it's nothing like Buddy Guy. It's totally different, but he has his own style with this.
I'm not kidding. Billy and I literally almost got into, just a knockdown, drag out argument. I had Billy in we did a lecture at the University of Chicago, and Billy, oh man, a shuffle's just a shuffle. They ain't no. And I was like, no, Billy. I was like, there's a California shuffle, there's a Texas shuffle, there's a Memphis shuffle, Chicago shuffle, New York sort of has it, Louisiana has a shuffle, New Orleans has a special shuffle there. And he didn't want to hear it, but I was like, but even his shuffle is not the same as
yeah.
But he will argue that until he is blue in the face that a shuffle is a shuffle. I'm like, no, it isn't. But yeah, Billy and
it is kind of true. Their shuffle is a shuffle, but there is difference in sonically how they're doing it.
There is, yeah.
I don't think that we should be caught up on the name of it, like what's Chicago shuffle or Texas shuffle. No, it's not about the name. It's about the feel, about how you.
And what for me as a musician, because I sat down and I really tried to dig into what is I'm not going to get into all the technical musical stuff, but what is a Texas shuffle? What makes a Texas shuffle a Texas shuffle? What makes a Chicago shuffle? Because that way I have more tools in my toolbox. And that sometimes I love playing sort of an Albert Collins kind of shuffle, and sometimes I go and I want to play an Albert King kind of shuffle, and there's a difference.
For those who wondering, for some example, like Texas, it's gonna be listen to Albert Collins, to Jimmy Vaughan, actually also Stevie Ray Vaughan, if
T-Bone
we go
Walker?
deeper, T-Bone Walker. If I was about to say, if you go back and go to T-Bone Walker.
Yeah,
and Chicago guys, it's gonna be Junior Wells, or for a shuffle,
Junior
we
Wells,
say Muddy Waters.
All
the chess box.
I'm a big John Primer fan. John Primer is the one that showed me the Chicago shuffle. So I got lucky.
Lamp, right, and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You go back to and buy some chess collection, and you'll get Chicago shuffle.
Yeah, right? Definitely.
All the
Sam Lay, he's another. Yeah,
Willie Dixon, Magic Slim, or whatever of those guys. Okay, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
For sharing. Thanks for the time. And last thing I want to ask you is saying goodbyes. The last question. Please name one thing each aspiring blues musician should always consider every time playing the blues.
Every time you play the blues?
One thing you should keep in mind.
You are standing on the shoulders of thousands of people that have come before you. Every blues player, every time I pick up a guitar, I am honoring, as this is a little bit more personal, as a black man, I am honoring the voices and the souls and the pain and the suffering and the stories of thousands and thousands of people that came before me. So every time I pick up a guitar, it is not about me. It is about honoring what they have given me, and honoring the fact that blues is way bigger than anything I will ever be, no matter how much I put into this. I put my soul and heart and soul into every performance. I play like there's no tomorrow. I've had some people tell me my playing comes across as being aggressive or whatever. I don't know when the last time I'm going to pick up a guitar is going to be. So every time I pick a guitar up, I play as if it's going to be my last time. But I play with the idea that I'm honoring the history and the culture and the people and the soul and the suffering and the pain and the joy of the millions of African Americans that came before me. And I am entrusted with that history, and I honor that. So that's what I would say to any blues player. Whenever you pick up a guitar, and that doesn't mean, as I said, that was personally for me. It doesn't matter whether you're white or you're black or you're Hispanic or Asian or whatever. When you pick up that guitar, that music has a history, and you need to honor that history, and play something that honors that history, and be true to be honest with yourself. I do. I pick up the guitar. I play my story. I play like I play, but I play with an honor of with the idea of honoring the people that came before me.
Yeah, thanks. And I'll let me add that when Khalif says when you pick up guitar, it means when you pick up any instrument
Any
you play.
instrument, yeah.
This goes for the drummers
I'm
too,
partial to guitar. I'm
Yeah,
partial to
but
guitar.
he plays guitar, but this goes for drummers too. When you pick up your sticks and sit by your instrument, right?
If you're gonna play the tambourine, play the hell out of that. I mean, play it, but
Yes.
play it with the history in mind.
Exactly. Okay, and thank you one more time. Thank you for being here. And
Thank you so
definitely,
much.
I think we talked about before. We're gonna seek out on some later on some episode about blues history or Afro-American history, and
Cool,
we're definitely gonna do some things in the future.
cool,
And
very nice.
bye, guys, and I'll see you in the Q&A after this when we're live. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.